For about 8 years after I graduated, I did advertising and marketing jobs, very fast-paced, started to get burnt out. I'm kind of looking for a change. I watched a documentary about the Walt Disney Archives, but the documentary laid out a lot of different kinds of roles that people had there. I didn't really know much about archives. I had never thought about that as a possibility. Not long after that, I had a conversation with a friend who had gone to the University of North Texas. She told me that they had a remote grad school program for the Masters of Library Science. In the fall of 2019, I started that program at University of North Texas, still living in Houston, but doing the program remotely. In March of 2020, I started a practicum part-time working here as a processing archivist at University of Houston.
It was kind of a long road. I started out returning to school during my middle-aged years, a single mom. I studied literature as a major and art history as a minor. I went and got a job at the Rare Books Room at The Ohio State University, fell in love with it, decided to go to library science school. Becoming an archivist really wasn't my first choice because I really didn't know what archives were or archivists were. I had a friend who said, "You should become an archivist." And I was like, "Arca what?" I kind of learned late in life what an archivist was. It was by chance. I kind of wanted to be a rare book librarian and study rare books. But they said, "Hey, why don't you do appraisal of this really huge faculty member's paper? We need to write a grant for it, but we need to know what's in it." Somehow, I ended up becoming an archivist.
I don't think I went in becoming an archivist by design. It was more of a byproduct of getting my master's in library and information science degree. I took a course in conservation and preservation. During one of the sessions for the course, one of the instructors was talking about the different methods and techniques of dealing with water damaged books. Air drying, which would be involving just basically fans and circulation of air, having us wrap freezer paper books that are water damaged and placing them in the freezer to illustrate the point of dry freezing and how that can mitigate water damaged books. So that really interested me. Talked with my advisor. She says, "It sounds like if you're not wanting to be a conservator, it sounds like you want to be an archivist." We talked about that, and she told me a little bit more about what it took to become an archivist and kind of the courses I needed to take in addition to getting my MLIS degree in library and information science. A new collection that has recently been accessioned and brought in, the San Jacinto chapter of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas. Their materials go back to the latter part of the 19th, early part of the 20th century. They're one of the older women's organizations in the Houston area.
I'm taking in a collection from Alexander Schilt, who was a president and chancellor of U of H and a longtime faculty member. He recently passed away, and I've been working closely with his daughter, Paige, to take in this collection.
You can kind of see everywhere around me is also the Tommy Tune Vapors, which is a big collection we just got in. It's about 212 boxes of stuff, so it's a really big collection. It's got lots of costumes and non-traditional, non-document materials that we don't always get to work with. That's an exciting collection too. Tommy Tune is a big deal in the Broadway theater world, dance world. He's a UH alum. We anticipate that collection will get a lot of attention as well. The main part of my job is processing, arranging the materials, organizing the materials. I take what is initially kind of a mess and I arrange it into categories. We call them series that make sense. And then it's a lot of putting things in archival folders, labeling the folders, putting things in archival boxes, labeling the boxes, things that maybe seem tedious to some people, but I really like doing it.
Part of it involves accessioning, and that means getting a physical and intellectual handle on materials, creating an inventory.
And we'll do some work putting them into preservation boxes, acid-free boxes, and into smaller acid-free folders.
We might have to refolder certain things or inventory certain things, place and order certain things, but in general, we usually try to organize the materials the way the donors would have us do that because we want to keep it authentic to the creators and how they would have used the materials.
We work with people, we tell them what archives are, what we do in the archives, how we will keep these materials safe in temperature and humidity controlled conditions, how it will make the materials available for the public by putting them on databases like ArchivSpace online.
We do that so that the materials are stabilized, so that researchers are able to access them in a way that they're easy to use and easy to handle. That's the goal of every archive, is to make them available to researchers to use.
Some collections come in different states. This particular collection is actually very well organized. They took a lot of care in organizing that so that we wouldn't have to do too much rehousing or rework on our end. Using an archival term, more product, less processing, or MPLP. Materials actually came in their tote, which they had their binders and research materials in and is well labeled. As you can see, some of their materials which have been organized, they have various binders that document their history. Within each of the binders, they've had a table of contents laying out the theme or materials that researchers would find in each of the binders as they're conducting their research. You'll find a written history from their president as well as the historian that gives a preface on the organization.
I also work closely with student workers from programs on campus or even from other library science schools. I work with them to teach them how to process collections. And a lot of our processing gets done working with students and helping them learn what archives are and how to process. And a lot of them become archivists, and that's very fulfilling.
One day I could be working with my graduate assistant who's processing an archival collection for the Carrie Stewart Women's Archives. Another day can involve teaching, where we bring materials out to our Evans classroom to introduce students about primary source material, archival literacy, primary source literacy, community engagement.
Helping people find things in the archives. It could be people looking for a photograph of their father who played football here in the 1950s because they want to get it framed for Father's Day. So a lot of times you really get to know people and you get to help people.
Researchers use our materials for all kinds of things. If someone had questions about programming, for example, the School of Theater and Dance does a lot of stuff with the Houston Shakespeare Festival. There's a lot of overlap with that. And so people can come and see, like, we have the programs going back to the 1970s. If they wanted to see information about actors or productions that have been done before, there's production notes.
As archivists, we're always working on exhibits because we all curate exhibits and there may be a particular theme or materials that we're trying to illustrate for an upcoming event.
The job of University Archives is to document life on campus, the life of students, faculty, administrators, alumni.
In a single day and even throughout the week, it varies, and that's part of the attraction of why I love the profession and the job.